I voted for every split second of that. These were the scenes over the weekend coming out of the nation of El Salvador. Absolutely riveting. President Trump invoked the Alien Enemies Act of 1798 to authorize the deportation of hundreds of gang members associated with the ultra-violent Tren de Aragua and MS-13, both now designated as foreign terrorist organizations by the federal government. And if you can believe it, a woke federal judge tried to stop it all. He tried to stop that deportation, and Trump basically told him to shove it. And that is what he's doing as a whole against all these woke activist federal judges. Wait until you see this. Come on in, one and all. Great to see you all for our live stream Monday night. We are closing in officially on the first 2 months of the single greatest presidency of our lifetimes. A very happy St. Paddy's Day to all of you, as we always do on Monday nights. We're going to move our lively discussion of all things culture and politics over to our exclusive censorship-free virtual platform. So if you want to join us over there for some sweet fellowship and some awesome, stimulating, scholarly discussion, just scan that QR code that you see on the screen or click the link in the description below. For a very small, very modest monthly fee, you can have access to our exclusive Q&As, exclusive content, exclusive conversations and meetups, and you get access to all of our exclusive offers. So click that link below or scan this QR code. I love our QR code. I love QR codes to join our Courageous Patriots Club, where thousands of us gather each and every week to restore the pillars of faith, family, and freedom as we usher in a new conservative age. We will head on over there in mere moments. But first, so as you saw there, we are now getting our first images of hundreds of violent gang members deported out of the United States and sent to El Salvador's mega prison. They're Nayib Bukele's super prison, right? This is the genius of President Nayib Bukele, who transformed El Salvador from being the murder capital of the world to now officially being one of the safest countries on the planet. El Salvador's murder and violent crime rate has dropped over an astonishing 90% in the last 4 years. Last year, Bukele marked another record low homicide rate in the country, counting just over 100 murders in a population that exceeds 6 million. They used to have 100 murders in a day easily, 100 murders in an entire year. And to that end, Bukele had built a super prison, a mega penitentiary that holds upwards of 40,000 inmates. And you just saw at the very beginning here, the latest prisoners to be locked up there. Now, of course, not everyone here in the United States is happy about that. Woke leftists who have an inverted conception of reality, particularly woke leftist judges, are doing their darndest to try to tie President Trump's hands in all of this. A judge actually ordered the plane. I kid you not. You may have seen this. The judge ordered the plane carrying gang members to turn around mid-flight. He declared verbally the deportations illegal, and he demanded that the plane that was already in the air be turned around. I mean, we all know Trump. Well, you just saw what Trump's response was to that. Maybe we'll see the president there. I mean, the judge there. But I mean, seriously, who does this judge think he is? I mean, who could even possibly remotely defend that? You have a flight with a bunch of illegal, alien, violent criminals being deported out of the country who should never have been in the country in the first place. And this judge, this nut, this sick excuse for a juror says, "Oh, no, not so fast. Bring them back. We want these guys in our nation." I mean, seriously, what Democrat politician would explicitly defend this? Notice how quiet they are. Even the legacy media is just like, well, what authority do you have to do that? What authority do you have to defy a judge's orders? But nobody's coming out and saying, yeah, these people need to be brought back into this country. People who should never have even been here to begin with. Everyone knows how utterly absurd this is. This is absurd even for the wokest of the woke. Regardless, let's just say, as you saw there, President Trump basically laughed in this activist judge's face. Now, they have filed a response to this judge, arguing that judges, of course, do not have the slightest bit of jurisdiction over the president's national security measures and foreign affairs authority. Here is Stephen Miller bringing the fire on CNN.
I don't speak for the White House. You are here to speak You're here to speak for the White House. I just want you to answer that one simple question.
I am. Ready? Here we go. Under a proper reading of the Constitution, district court judges provide relief to individual plaintiffs seeking relief. District court judges do not have the authority, as a general matter, to enjoin the functioning of the executive branch, but their authority is at its lowest point when the president is exercising his powers as commander-in-chief. And I asked you a question, you never answered it. Can a judge enjoin troop movements overseas? Can a district court judge enjoin troop movements overseas?
Stephen,
yes or no?
I am not going to get into the
just say no, and then you'll know that I'm right.
This is a
just
separate
say no,
question,
and you'll know that
Stephen.
I'm right.
Okay, we're not talking about other troops overseas. I need to ask you about something else.
The president issued a proclamation delineating in detail how the Venezuelan regime sent this gang, this terrorist organization, to our shores. And by the way, and I love being here, but all the outrage that we are seeing from the Democrat Party and from the corporate media, none of that outrage was expressed when little Jocelyn Nungare was tortured and beaten to death. None of that outrage was expressed when our nation was flooded by illegal aliens.
I have just been simply trying to get a simple answer to a simple question. No outrage necessary about whether or not the White House is ahead of the court.
But I am.
But I need to ask you one more question. I'm going to have to let you go.
Democrats defending trained Iragua instead of celebrating President Trump expelling these terrorists from our midst.
Just say no, and you'll know that I'm right. I love just say it. Just say no, and you admit that I'm right. Yeah, again, that was absolutely brilliant. And then again, what we have to underscore here, the legacy media and the Democrats are only destroying themselves in this, in standing up for illegals over citizens. It's about as politically suicidal as standing up for trans athletes over women in female sports. It's absurd. And, again, you saw it on The View. Now The View is saying, this is showing that anybody could get deported. This is showing anybody now, the Trump is showing anybody can be deported. Not if you're an American citizen. Where are they going to deport you to? My wife was just saying this at the dinner table. Where the heck, if you're an American citizen, where do you get deported to? They're trying to politicize a pre-political issue, an issue that has political support that spans the partisan divide. 80 to 90% of voters support deporting illegal migrants who are violent. And the only ones who are not supporting it are the illegal migrants who are violent. So they're only hastening their own political demise here. But you get the gist of the Trump administration's response here. You activist judges, you have no power here. You've got no authority in dictating to the president how he will handle matters of national security and foreign policy, period, full stop. And we are not recognizing that authority. Our military deployments are not determined by judges. Our national security operations are not determined by judges. So this is what the Trump administration is doing. They are taking a very, very hard stance here, very solid posture of ignoring these activist judges, at the very least, when it comes to our national security. They're totally dismissing them until the Supreme Court finally rules on this matter later this summer in June or July. We've talked about Pam Bondi's Justice Department has formally petitioned the Supreme Court to overrule the decision that's allowing all these judicial activists to make their silly rulings in the first place. It's a 1935 Supreme Court ruling known as the Humphrey decision, or more formally, Humphrey's executor decision. And the case grossly interfered in the balance of powers by arguing that executive authority, even over the executive branch of government, was actually limited. So basically, President Roosevelt, FDR, back in the 1930s, he fired this guy, William Humphrey, from his position at the FTC, the Federal Trade Commission, before the expiration of Humphrey's 6-year term. Humphrey turned around and sued the government, alleging the president did not have the authority. And the Supreme Court actually sided with Humphrey. But in the process of that decision, they made a number of factual errors in terms of jurisdiction and how the executive branch works. So there have been a number of calls over the decades for this decision to get overturned. And it does look as if the Supreme Court will indeed overturn Humphrey this summer, especially in light of their immunity decision. But there you go. I mean, in the meantime, until we get word from the Supreme Court, Trump is ignoring these judges, especially in all matters of deportation and national security, until the Supreme Court makes its decision. And the Supreme Court, ironically, if the Supreme Court ends up ruling that Biden's pardons will stand, his auto pen pardon, so we talked about earlier today, if the Supreme Court ends up ruling in favor of Biden, saying that the president has absolute authority to issue binding pardons, then Trump can simply pardon every and all officials for ignoring all of these judges. How's that for 4D chess? If the Supreme Court ends up holding up these rulings by these activist judges and at the same time overturns Trump's rendering of Biden's pardons as null and void, since presidential pardons are absolute, then Trump can just continue to ignore the courts and issue blanket pardons for everyone ignoring them in his administration. Certainly the Justice Department is going to do a damn thing, and Republicans in Congress aren't going to do a damn thing. Either way, the Democrats and these activist judges are big time, inevitable losers in all of this. You could take that to the bank. All right, gang, over to you. Micah, do you want to give us some instructions before we head on over to our censorship-free virtual platform?
Yeah, we have this QR code, like Dr. Steve mentioned at the beginning of the live stream, and we started at 7 p.m. I know I've seen a lot of comments saying they actually started at 7 p.m. I know we get a little
day today. The luck of the Irish.
That's right. Yep. Happy St. Patrick's Day. But we have this QR code and the link in the description, or you can go to fight.turleytalks.com/Monday-QA, and you can join us on our uncensored VIP platform, where we have so many members willing to, and ready to greet you and join with you in asking Dr. Steve some questions and just enjoying some fellowship every Monday night. And you will be able to ask questions on Friday mornings as well. So that's 8 Q&As a month, and that's much cheaper than sending in a super chat every time you want to ask a question on YouTube or on Rumble or wherever you have been asking questions. You can just pay a flat fee. I believe it's $10 a month, and you can ask as many questions as you like. And we have so many people ready to ask questions, and we're about to get to that VIP live stream. But first, just to give you guys a taste, if you would like to join, we're going to show off some of these questions. We have, speaking of AutoPen, Steve Lettingham asks, AutoPen and the potential to declare all of the pardon null and void as a case could be made that Biden didn't sign them. How do you think that would play with the general public? Would it also set such a bad precedent that maybe we should just cut our losses and maintain the sanctity of the pardon process? It's a great question.
Yeah, that's a great question, Steve. So the argument that the Trump administration is giving here for declaring the pardons null and void is that it's not so much the auto pen. It's a matter of whether or not they had Biden's permission to sign those documents, and that they have evidence that they did not. So that's all going to have to come out. But that's the key. Auto pens aren't the key. I'm seeing conflicting reports. Some are arguing that that pardons need to be signed directly by the president. It can't be signed by auto pen. I doubt that. I bet, again, as long as the president gave his permission, his consent for his signature to be put on the document, then it's most likely valid. What we're finding, and Speaker Mike Johnson's helping us out here. What we're finding is we've got a lot of evidence that suggests Biden did not know about this stuff. He was asked point blank by Mike Johnson about a executive order that he signed not even 30 days before their meeting, and Biden didn't know what he was talking about. And Biden steadfastly denied that he had anything to do with that. So that's when Mike Johnson said he realized to his horror that we were being run by an unelected government here. So if that unelected government gave the pardons and not Biden, by virtue of the fact that Biden did not give his consent, this is huge. This is gigantic. So ironically, by Trump pursuing this would be protecting the pardon process, the sanctity of the pardon process.
And then our other big topic of the live stream is the woke activist judge. We have a question from Tiger6. He asks, it seems to me the 677 plus district court judges are out of control as they have enacted 15 temporary restraining orders in the last month, while only 15 were implemented in the last 3 years of the Biden disaster. Dr. Steve, why won't the Supreme Court impose itself and stop them from unconstitutionally interfering with the chief executive?
They had their opportunity, a few weeks back in the dissenting opinion. The 4 conservatives, including Kavanaugh, were absolutely livid at Roberts and Barrett, who decided on procedural grounds to allow these appeals to continue. So they allowed the executive order, one of the executive orders, to stand. It already made its way to the Supreme Court. Now, technically speaking, I know, as I understand it, executive orders are not supposed to be handled directly by the Supreme Court. They do have to go through an appellate process, and only then can the court rule. And I just think Roberts and Barrett are so flipping freaked out over the court appearing as nonpartisan as possible, as much above the law as possible, that they sent this all back to the appellate process. Now, the good news is they are going to rule on it. And the good news is that the Trump administration appears to have basically taken a default position of ignoring these rulings, these federal district court judge rulings, until the Supreme Court makes its ultimate ruling. Trump is fearless in this, and his administration is fearless because they know he's going to give him blanket pardons. So when all is said and done, these activist judges are being made much of by the legacy media to try to give some hope and hopefully some activist inspiration among the Democrat faithful. But in the end, they're actually not doing a lot. Don't think they're doing more than just rendering rulings that by and large are being ignored.
And we're going to have one more question before we flip over to our exclusive live stream. This question comes from John Clement, and it is once again about the auto pen. Dr. Turley, regarding the auto pen scandal, Isn't this a form of identity theft? If a person uses the president's signature unknown to him,
that's key. Yeah.
Yes,
Yeah.
unknown to him, to pardon people he knows nothing about,
Wow. Yeah.
haven't they stolen his unique ability to pardon, which no one else can do? Yeah. Shouldn't Biden be brought before Congress to answer whether he indeed intended these pardons? If he says he does not remember, can't Congress or the courts revoke them? And one thing that I remember about this is Mike Johnson speaking on, I believe it was Fox News, about he asked Biden about a specific order that he had struck down about exports to Europe, and Biden had no idea what Mike Johnson was talking about. So
yeah, it was a liquid natural gas executive order that banned liquid natural gas. And he's like, why are you doing that? Gas prices are through the roof. And Biden's like, I didn't do that. Yeah. Sir, yes, you did. It was an executive order just not even 30 days ago. Biden had no idea what he was talking about. Yeah. So yeah, to kind of reverse your question, I don't know. I don't know if Biden could be brought in front of Congress. I don't know if he has the acumen, the acuity. I honestly don't. I don't know if he has the acuity for it. They're going to have to launch, and you could be sure FBI is already doing an investigation on this. Whose first day was it today, right? So you could be sure Dan Bongino and Kash Patel are already on this. Pam Bondi is already on this. And they're gonna do an investigation. I think what they're finding is exactly the way you put it, is basically identity theft when all is said and done. And it is, yes, it is extremely problematic legally for whoever was involved in this. Now, again, the beauty of bureaucracy is you always get to pass the buck to someone, but it just sounds to me like they're ready to sink the entire ship. So I think we are going to find, and again, John, you hit it perfectly. It's not the auto pen per se. It's the auto pen unknown, right? An auto pen that went outside the consent of the one on behalf of whose signature is being placed on these documents. That's the key. And it looks like we're amounting a tremendous amount of evidence. Amassing a tremendous amount of evidence to suggest that Biden was clueless on a number of these executive orders.
Well, that's going to wrap us up on all our normal general platforms. And we are going to head over to our VIP live stream. I'm going to put up this QR code, and the link is in the description, but it is also on the screen if you want to type it out.
Yeah, come on over. We love our first timers. You'll get priority if this is your first time. We'll put you at the front of the line.
If you join, let us know that if it's your first time. We will put your questions right up there. Everyone will greet you. I will shout you out on the live stream for Dr. Steve, and we'll answer your questions, as many as we can get to, as we flip over to our VIP live stream. We would love to see you over there every Monday and every Friday. So please join us over there, and we will be over there in 30 seconds.